Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and we have a follow-up to a story I did on January the 6th. Now, there was bad timing with that story because unfortunately JetBrains' initial rebuttal came just minutes after I published that video. I did manage to cover it on GameFromScratch.com, but sadly not on YouTube. And since that story broke, JetBrains have issued a follow-up. And what it's going to boil down to is, who do you believe, JetBrains or the New York Times? And really, honestly, I wouldn't have run with that story in the first place if it was just the New York Times. I'm going to admit something right here. That article was crap. The sourcing was crap. The wording was crap. They basically were kind of throwing some allegations against JetBrains, but then they were like extrapolating a whole lot of scary stuff out of it. But the fact that the FBI were investigating a tool maker relevant to so many game developers, I felt that was definitely worth covering. However, you will notice basically no guilt established. I focused mostly on JetBrains' responses, not on what the New York Times themselves said. And again, if it wasn't also covered by Reuters, I wouldn't have covered it at all. But Reuters is a pretty trusted source for the most part. Their own article was like a paragraph long, basically saying JetBrains is under investigation by the FBI as part of the Solarwinds Hack. End of story. So right after I put that article live, there was a response from JetBrains. I'll go straight to the source on this one. It's pretty short, and I'm going to summarize it because there's a more thorough response coming up after the fact. So they're basically responding directly to the New York Times that they're under investigation. First and foremost, JetBrains has not taken part, there should be an in there, I think, or being involved in this attack in any way. SolarWinds is one of our customers that uses TeamCity, which is a continuous integration and deployment system used as part of building software. SolarWinds has not contacted us with any details regarding the breach, and the only information we have is what has been publicly made available. It's important to stress that TeamCity is a complex product that requires proper configuration. If TeamCity has somehow been used in the process, it could very well be due to misconfiguration and not specific vulnerability. Furthermore, security is our top concern, and we notify and manage updates and transparency in our security bulletin. Secondly, they have not been contacted by anybody, no government, no security agencies, or anything. They have no idea what the hell this story was about. So that was yesterday's response on January the 6th. Actually, I guess that was the day before. On January 7th, they did a follow-up response with a lot more detail. By the way, this is from Maxim Shafarov. He is actually the CEO of SolarWinds, so about as high up as you can go. It's the follow-up. What TeamCity is and why is it in the news? It's a continuous integration and delivery tool. It serves to automate building, testing, and optionally deploying software. Currently, it is only generally available as a self-hosted standalone application, meaning the end user is responsible for installing, configuring, and maintaining the system, including any security and access settings. Now, that makes a lot of sense for them to talk about this, because what it could potentially be is any software can potentially be exploited, and any software that is set up incorrectly can be a vector for attack. So they could have been using, potentially it could come out, the TeamCity was a vector of attack they used to get at SolarWinds, but what they're basically saying is, well, if that was the case, there's a good chance that it was because they configured it poorly, which makes sense. A badly configured SQL server, for example, can easily be used as a vector of attack. All kinds of products can be used that way. So anyways, based on publicly available information, which is to date the only thing we are aware of, as neither SolarWinds nor any government agency has reached out to us with any detail regarding the breach. It seems that the attack on SolarWinds was targeted at their build process, which the media is referring to as a supply chain attack. SolarWinds uses TeamCity amongst other tools during the build process. However, at this point, as also supported by statements of SolarWinds' own spokesperson in the Wall Street Journal, we'll get to that in a second, there is no evidence that TeamCity had any role in this. So here is the Wall Street Journal quote from someone at SolarWinds. SolarWinds, like many companies, uses a product by JetBrains called TeamCity to assist with the development of its software. We are reviewing all internal and external tools as part of our investigation, which are still ongoing. Here is the important part. The company hasn't seen any evidence linking the security incident to a compromise of the TeamCity product. So that means that you've got SolarWinds, the people who actually got hacked here. Their own spokesperson is saying they have no evidence that JetBrains was responsible. Their TeamCity product was used as part of that attack. The fact that TeamCity is one of the tools used by SolarWinds during the build process is what we believe has led to this news coverage. Has JetBrains or TeamCity been compromised? To date, they have no knowledge of TeamCity or JetBrains having been compromised in any way that lead to such a situation. In addition, we not only run regular security audits of our software, but we're now organizing a further independent security audit of TeamCity. If we are to find any vulnerability in the product that led to this, we will be fully transparent on the matter and inform our customers under our security and privacy policies. Also worth mentioning that we ourselves do not use SolarWinds Orion product. That's the product that was hacked that gave potential backdoors into hundreds or thousands of companies. Does this affect your IDEs and other tools? So from the game developer's perspective, this is what we care about. Things like Sea Lion, IntelliJ, WebStorm, Project Radar, etc. And our IDEs are standalone tools and bear no relation to TeamCity other than the fact we use our own installation of TeamCity to build them. We have no evidence that indicates that any of our servers or standalone tools have been tampered with, and much like is the case with TeamCity, we run regular security audits on our tools and system. And are you safe to use JetBrain tools? A question a lot of people are unfortunately asking due to the New York Times story. And it says none of the articles so far, including those referenced by the FBI, as well as quotes from Solarwinds himself, show any evidence that TeamCity has any vulnerability or backdoor that would allow unauthorized access to the build process. As such, we have no knowledge or evidence to believe that any of our tools have been compromised, and consequently do not believe that you are at risk in continuing to use our tools. We hope that the investigation with Solarwinds is finalized as soon as possible and clears up any misrepresentation of our tools and our company. We also like to reiterate that we offer our full cooperation with any governmental agency and security researchers. So that is that. And I have to say, there was kind of a bit of a feeling on this story that, just so you know, you may be able to tell by Maxim Shafarov, the three founders of JetBrains were Russian. It's actually a Czechoslovakian-based company. Sorry, did it again. A Czech-based company. Sorry, guys. So there should be kind of a Russophobia angle to this argument, or this article from the New York Times. I'm not going to go back to the New York Times story, but I do recommend, if you're just coming into this, to go and read it. And I kind of leave a question to you. From what it boils down to, if it comes down that JetBrains are being investigated by the FBI because they are part of the tool chain being used at SolarWinds, hey, that makes sense. I got to imagine every piece of software at SolarWinds is under some scrutiny right now. But if that is the extent of the story, is New York Times open here for libel? Like, they can do a lot of damage with the acquisitions they made the other day. And if it turns out that there is no evidence to back it up, I can see this going to court for sure. And I can also see how they can definitely claim for damages here, because you don't generally have the CEO responding to things like this unless there's concern. If you go on Twitter, you are going to see a lot of posts and comments and articles and so on because of this. And yeah, it does come down at the end of the day to a he said, she said, she said by the seashore. Who you actually believe in the end? Is it the New York Times or is it JetBrains? And my side of things, well, I don't trust any American media, to be honest, for the most part. Like I said, I would not have run with the story in the first place if it wasn't covered by Reuters as well. Reuters tends to be pretty on the up and up, but they may have been hooked in by the New York Times story. So, comes down at the end of the day, who do you believe, JetBrains or New York Times? From what I understand of this article and from being a technical person myself, I think you are pretty much as safe using their products, things like IntelliJ, Project Lion, Sea Lion, Project Radar, etc., as you were before any of this happened, which is to say, potentially any closed and already compiled software that you did not build yourself, including potentially open source projects, could be compromised. But there's no reason to believe that it has been. It seems like this entire story is built around the fact that JetBrains' TeamCity product was in use at SolarWinds, who got hacked, which is ludicrously stupid, because I gotta imagine they probably also used the GCC compiler or Clang or various other software products out there. They probably used Microsoft Project or Visio or some source code management system software out there, and they could have picked any single one of those people and picked them as a target for this article as well. And I think they may have picked JetBrains because they are Eastern European, and that is some serious BS. But we got no way of knowing for sure. Hopefully the damages are, hopefully the full truth comes to light. And if it does come to light that New York Times overplayed the story, I would hope for a retraction or follow-up at some point in time. Now, the New York Times story could technically still end up being true. The FBI could be investigating JetBrains simply because they're in that loop. I got to imagine at this point in time, the CIA and the FBI are investigating every single major software company out there after a hack of that extent. So your reporting could technically be correct, but the way the article was done and the implications in that article they really border on libel. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. But I figured I'd do a follow-up. You can't sew one side of the story, and unfortunately, we never had the other side of the story until now. So that's that. What do you think? Let me know. Comments down below. Talk to you all later.